Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is going to start sheeting the top here. So I'm going to line a nice straight edge up on the front of the former here, the bottom of the piece. And I'm just going to make a mark where I'm going to cut it. I want it to be right even with the end. And I'm going to mark it right to where the edge of this part here is. So then I'm going to take that piece out and cut it, and I'm just going to walk it right on down the line. Now I'm ready to go ahead and glue the tip here. Be careful not to glue onto your wing. You can even remove the wing if you want to. I know about where I'm coming up to here. I know it's going to be all touching that, so I might as well give it a nice little baste. And it's just backed off a little bit from the nose there. And I'm going to go to here. Okay, now I'm going to line up this piece here, and I'm just going to mark the edge here, and do the same right here. Like I said, just like we're sheeting the edge of the fuselage, or the bottom of the fuselage. So I'll cut that now. And I'll cut my second piece. Now the good thing here is just cut and fit your pieces, and you want them to be completely flush with the edges on both sides of the runners you just made. So, you know, you might want to take it off now, unlike the fuselage where you can leave it hanging over the edge. You know, if you left it just hanging, then you could sand it down later. You don't really have a whole lot of area to sand without scuffing up your monocoat. So go ahead and take it off, sand it, and just place it until you get it to right where you want it. Mark your back lines to glue it to, and then just go ahead and glue her down. But as flush as you can get it now, the less sanding you'll have to do in a little bit. So that's why I do it that way. And you could use thin CA for this. I'm just using medium because I use medium for everything pretty much. Now I also backed off my screw because we're going to need to take that out before we go sheet the bottom in, or you're never going to get it out again without drilling a bunch of holes trying to find it. So we'll take the screw out. All that's drying right there. Alright, for the last piece here, not the last piece, the second to last piece, I'm going to come to the very back because of the way my spacing is, and just flush it up against the back of this here. And I'm just going to put some excess on both sides, and I'll cut it here, 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 just because I want it to be nice and uniform with the side here. And I'll cut this piece out for the back part, and then I'm going to cut this piece here. Okay, I've cut my last piece here, or the second to last piece. I have a little bit of an angle going on in here that I didn't catch, so I'm going to want to push this piece out. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to glue the top on this side, and I'm going to flush that right up to that edge. And when I push it to the back part here, I'll give it just a 32nd of a gap there. Then I want to flush up this side here, and I'm not going to glue the other side yet. I'll let this side dry, and then I'll glue the other former, and I'll just push it over that way, and that'll take that little bit of an angle right out of it. She's looking good, drying on straight here. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, just got my last piece to cut out here. That's going to be this baby right here. So I'll go there. Inside there. Just do the whole length. I'll get my angle for the piece and I can cut the width. Alright, I've cut the width now, so now I can just slide this a little bit over here, see where my gap is. I want to make a cut there. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just slide it right up against it. See where the old gap is. I'll cut that little piece out and just, you know, probably sand it a couple times. I'm going to cut it a little bit big until it's sitting there nice and flush. Alright, as you can see, okay, I got my last piece glued in. I ran out of film, or my SD card fill, just before I got to the, or after I glued it, before I glued it. So anyway, I glued down those pieces. So now I'm just going to fill in the seams here. And that one too. Clear it off with your fingers, dumb guy Joe. Alright. And a nice coat of glue on there. I'll pop off the wing. And we will do the underneath part here. Alright, I got the wing up on some foam here just to keep it up off the table now because my servos are underneath. But I'm just going to take this piece here and I'm just going to set it right under the floor of this here. And none of that is exact because that's where it was going to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark off this piece where I need to cut it. And that's going to be right at the base of the wing. You don't want to do it to the top of the wing, to the very base of the wing. So that's the marks I'm looking to get here. So I'm just going to set this on here. Slide it over and mark it where I can see the base of the wing. So there, I'll slide it that way to get the other one. And I'm going to cut that. Alright, I went and cut that piece out now, so I'm just going to lay it on the bottom. And I'm going to need to bevel the bottom of this to be flat with that. I mean, you don't really have to. It's going to be wrapped in monocoat and hidden anyway, but I kind of like things exact when they need to be. So I'm just going to take it off and basically I'm just going to bevel a slight angle in here. You want to keep it kind of flat, but just a slight angle is good enough to get her flat. Do that a couple times and she'll sit nice and flush. That looks pretty. And now we'll just glue it on. Just line it up, make sure she's not going to interfere with your airons. And there you go. One belly pan is complete. Let the glue dry. So while that's drying, I'm actually going to take a drill bit and just come through bottom straight down here. This is the bolt hole. I just want to get it through the bottom of the... Hope I'm centered and everything. Alright, now as you can see, I started drilling out the back part of the hole here. Underneath the thing, just getting it wide enough to be able to get a screwdriver head in there and also the bolt that we're going to be using. And just basically use the drill bits by hand. Makes it a little bit smoother and you can press as you want. Don't worry about blowing through the bottom here. Alright, I've got the size of the hole carved out with my X-Acto blade about where I want it. Now I just rolled up a piece of sandpaper. I'm just going to put a piece of sandpaper in there and sand her down to where I want it. Go ahead and sand your sides. Just be careful not to run it too hard on the other side too. We want to sand the back part here. You want to sand that flush as well with everything. Get the airons out of the way. Going to sand that down. Alright, for the paper tube that I'm going to do in here, just to keep a tunnel in there, just a piece of paper, I just have a regular piece of notebook paper here. I'm just going to use the plan sheet, but I found this closer by to me, so I'm using this. I'm just going to roll it up, stick it inside the hole here for where the bolt's going to go. And the way I like to do it is I like to make sure that the bolt's going to sit perfectly down in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. And I will not glue it with the bolt in there. Now that I know that that's in there and not touching anything, I'll just, like I said, make sure the paper's far away from the edges of it as it can be, because I don't want the paper to end up holding the angle of the bolt as it goes into my bolt hole. So now with the paper still there, I'll just hold it flat down to where I need to know I liked it. Pop that bolt out of there. I have to do a little funny work to do that. And then I'll just take some thin CA and just run it down the paper on the inside here. And just going to solid things up. Make sure you don't get glue in the bolt hole. It's okay if you do. Just you have to re-get it out of there. Oop, move my paper. But I know where my lines were just by memory. Nothing else, I assure you. And then I'm just going to soak the outside right on the top here. And that's going to run all down the paper, and then I'll just trim off the top of the paper, and that should work out just great. So after the glue gets a little tacky, and I know that the piece isn't moving anymore, I'm going to go ahead and cut the top part of this off. So I'm just going to kind of go into an angle into the hole here to cut the paper, and just work the knife slowly around it. Come on. You can do it. There we go. Now once I got the top of that all done, I'll go ahead and I'll reseal all that with some glue. I'll harden that whole piece of paper in there. Basically just dropping some glue on it. Let it ride. Same here, the thin glue is nice because it soaks everything pretty quickly and dries pretty quickly. So there we go. We have a tunnel and a piece of sandpaper. Once all that completely dries, we'll take that top edge that's a little bit rough right off the top and we'll start monocoating.